Alright guys, so this is another Q&A, and as always, if you guys would like to be part of the Q&As, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, hit the second tier, and yeah, you guys can ask questions whenever I post the next Q&A. So this one is gonna be about The Simpsons. Why? Why not? So yeah. So, all of the people, like, basically it was like 3 questions per person, and I think everyone did give me like 3 questions. Honestly, it really does feel like it really does feel like everyone gave me 3 questions per person. So, yeah. So, I want to thank everyone who did send questions for this Q&A. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm very curious to see how this will play out. So, yeah. Let's get started with our first set of questions, which I will pull up right about now. In a minute. I'm so professional on this channel. Here we go. So, first set of questions come from Tom Hibbert. And the first question is, favorite Homer Simpson... What is your favorite Homer Simpson moment? Let me act it out for you. Dog! Oh, fudge. That's broken. Fiddly-dee! That will require a tetanus shot. I'm not going to swear, but I am going to kick this doghouse down! There you go. Question 2. If you had to make a sequel to the Simpsons movie, how would you do it? A sequel, a second Simpson movie. Okay, how would I do that? I think what I would do is have it just kind of go more balls out with just the absurdity of it, and I would have like I think my story would be like more like an adventure story, and not in the like the first one you could say was an adventure story, but how I would do this one is that it's more like the people of Springfield have found out that there is this lost treasure that was buried by the real founder of Springfield, not Jebediah Springfield. It was actually a Simpson. It was actually a Simpson, and the real deed to this to owning Springfield is there. So Homer, now thinking that he can own the city, goes on a wild like adventure, cross-country adventure with the rest of the Simpsons who get dragged along with him in order to find this deed, but everyone's after this deed to Springfield because Mr. Burns wants to rule Springfield, Quimby wants to stay in power, so he sends Wiggum and the cops after him. It's just like, it would be like kind of like the Goonies, you know, it would almost be like the Goonies in a way. Or Rat Race, that'd probably be the more appropriate one. That's my idea, at least. So thank you for that question. And your third question is there a recent horror movie that you would like to see get spoofed in Treehouse of Horror? I would say they haven't done a Saw one. Maybe it's because Saw X is still fresh in my mind, which also, if you guys want to check out my review for Saw, just hit the link below, head on to my Patreon, and you can do that. Saw would be fun. I would say another one which would be pretty cool is a horror spoof of Predator. Like, they can just have Predator in the spoof. They can literally do that. It's owned by Fox and Disney, and by extension Disney. They can just have Homer and Homer be Dutch, and like Apu, and well, they don't use Apu anymore. Like Moe, Barney, Lenny, and Carl as the Marines, like as the other like Marines, and you have them going into the jungle and they get attacked by the Predator, and hilarity ensues. There you go. So thank you for those questions, Tom. Moving on now to Lamanta Benson, who asks, have you ever played The Simpsons Hit and Run, and what are your thoughts on the game? I fucking love that game. I absolutely adored Simpsons Hit and Run. It is the epitome of Simpson games. I actually own the Simpsons video game, and it's fine, but like it's no hit and run. It's really no hit and run is the GOAT when it comes to Simpsons video games. And I wish they would do a remaster. I really do wish they would do like a remaster so I could own it on Xbox One. Yes, I still have an Xbox One. I'm poor. Shut up. Yeah, to answer your question, to quote that one, to have that one quote, that's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT! So thank you for that question. Second question. Thoughts if Marge and Homer ever got permanently divorced? That'll never happen. They love each other way too much to do so. And honestly, there's really no one you could see them with outside of, really. So I couldn't really see anyone like a permanent divorce between Homer and Marge. Separations all the time, but really, divorce, nah. Third question, how long do you think the show will continue before ending or getting canceled? I think it could go on for another, if I'm being generous, another 4 or 5 years. That's really, I think, I don't think, like, it has forever. I think there is a finality, and now that we've lost more voice actors, and Marge is just getting, like, the Marge voice actress is getting worse and worse, like, Marge's voice actress is getting worse and worse. And I don't know if you could keep that up forever, so I'm going to be generous and say 4 to 5 years. But it is going to be weird when the Simpsons finally leave, right? When the Simpsons finally, end the show. It's going to be a weird day in history when the Simpsons, which is not just the longest running animated show, but the longest show ever, to finally come to a close. So, there you go. Thank you for those questions, Lamonta Benson. Moving on now to Jason Voorhees 2011, who asks, I know more current seasons after the movies have made more duds than hits, but are there any specific episodes from those seasons you think they're still worth watching? You see, I do have that same thought of, a lot of the later seasons aren't that great, but they do definitely have some gems in them. Like, there's one, and I can't remember what season it is, but there's one episode where Homer and Flanders team up to be bounty hunters, and it starts off with, and meanwhile Marge is accidentally baking erotic cakes. That's a whole episode, I swear to God. And it starts with a drunken Irish brawl in the streets. And of course, the Southern Irishman is the guy who throws the first punch. Just saying, that's how we roll. But yeah, that's a good one. There's a few other ones some of the Treehouse of Horrors are always hits. Although I have seen like a lag of like just dud after dud after dud with them. I have seen some stinkers from them, TBH. I have seen some serious stinkers. But on a whole, a lot of them are good. I think the one that had Clockwork Orange was a fun one. That's just me personally. But there are some good ones. I think, but it's few and far between. Anyway, second question. Favorite Treehouse of Horror segment? Oh boy, favorite Treehouse of Horror segment. I would say my personal favorite is I know it's the obvious one, but it's the Shinin. It's the best parody of a Stephen King property. Even Stephen King says that they nailed it. It's got some of the best jokes in any of these segments. I would say, and it's just perfect. Like there's even some jokes where even a joke I never got until I was older was when after Willie gets killed by Homer, and Marge goes, "Oh dear, I hope that carpet is Scotch guarded." And I was like, "Oh, I get it." A few others that were good were when Willie, the Nightmare on Elm Street parody, the Homer 3D one, just because of how 3D in the early 90s was so bizarre. It was just a nice showcase of animation. Later ones, the Clockwork Orange parody, I think that one's pretty fun. It's clear that everyone there loves, the crew behind The Simpsons loves Stanley Kubrick movies. Trying to think of another one that I really enjoy. Oh, The Raven. Just because of, it's The Simpsons doing Edgar Allan Poe. And it's actually kind of fun to watch. Yeah, so those are just a few. But I think my favorite is The Shinning. Probably, and I know, everyone's favorite Halloween segment is The Shinning. But for good reason. It's a fucking great segment. So, thank you for that question, Jason. And your third question is, favorite guest stars? Favorite guest stars. Well, I can't really count Paul Hartman because he was part of the show, so I can't really count him as much as I'd love to have, "Hi, I'm Troy McClure." But favorite guest stars would probably be... damn, that's a really good question, because there's several that I really enjoyed. The Mel Gibson one, even though Mel Gibson sucks, the Mel Gibson episode is actually pretty funny, especially how it ends with Homer getting a car up his ass. I thought I'm a basic human being. I'm a simple creature. I really enjoy the episode with... Actually, it's another another Treehouse of Horror segment which had Pierce Brosnan as the Killer House. I really love his... He was really good in that. I also really enjoyed I cannot remember his name, but he played Hank Scorpio in that one episode. You know the one I'm talking about, where they move to the perfect city. So yeah, those are just a few. Although I'm probably forgetting an obvious... Oh, the rock and roll one. The one where Homer goes to summer band camp and meets all these famous rockers, who most of them are sadly now dead. But thank you for those questions, Jason. Moving on now to David Deister, who asks, if you were hired to write the final episode of The Simpsons, how would you end the show? I think I would end it on a sweet note where it's just The Simpsons. It's a far future. Actually, no, it's not even a far. I wouldn't even have it as a far future episode. What I would do is just it's a day in the life of The Simpsons. Like, it's just them enjoying a day, and then it ends with them sitting in front of the TV, and it goes to Homer clicking it off. And that's the end of the show, where it just he presses a button and the show's over, and it cuts to credits. But yeah, it would just be a normal day for the Simpsons family. It wouldn't be something extravagant. It wouldn't be something over the top. It would just be simple. And sometimes you just need simple to end things. So there you go, guys. So thank you for that question. I almost said that was the end, but it's not. But thank you for that question, David. Moving on now to Cyborg 19.99, who asks, do you think Homer would be good friends with Richard Watterson from Amazing World of Gumball? I think they'd be BFFs, honestly. Homer would be like, so wait a minute, you just go home, you just stay at home and be lazy and eat, and your wife does all the working? Yeah. You, sir, are my hero. They would just be they would be great friends. Homer would adore Richard. That's just me, though, but I think they would be BFFs. And your second question is, do you think Mordecai and Rigby would be a bad influence on Bart? The better question is, Bart would probably be a worse influence on Mordecai and Rigby. No, really, I really do think he would be a much worse influence on them than anything else. Like, he would just be the absolute worst to them, for them. Like, they're bad already. You throw Bart in the mix, especially with Rigby, oof. Yeah. So think of those questions, Cyborg. Moving on now to the Mount Vernon kid. Chris, how you doing? First question. If the Simpsons had moved out of Springfield, where would they go? Like, if I was to pick any city, I think it'd be kind of fun to see Homer in current day New York, because we did have that episode of Homer versus New York City. And then I'd like to see, like, current New York with the Simpsons. That'd be fun. Second question. When Maggie shot Mr. Burns, what was your thoughts? It's typical Simpsons of having the last character you'd expect, but there was a lot of talk of having Mr. Smithers as the one who shot Burns. And it makes a lot more sense, and even they've made jokes about it. But, yeah, I think it's kind of funny. It is a bit of a cop-out, but it is fun. And your third question is, what's another family you'd like to see the Simpsons crossover with? I would like to see Bob's Burgers. The Family Guy one was not great, but the Bob's Burgers would be a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of good humor there, especially having Lisa and Louise kind of compete, and Tina like having a crush on Bart while he's being friends with Gene with Gene. Also Marge and God, I forgot the wife's name. But yeah. killing me now, but I gotta move on. So there you go, Bob's Burgers. Thank you for those questions, Chris. Moving on now to Gordon Rajani, whose first question is, at which episode did the show start getting bad for you? I wouldn't say like a specific episode. There are some episodes I like well into the teen seasons. Like I know people say like, oh, it stopped being good after season 10. I'm like, you goddamn elitists. There's some good stuff well into... there's good stuff I have found well into season 15. I will say like maybe season 16 and 17 are not great. But yeah, I would say if I had to really pick one, even though I don't really subscribe to that, because like I said earlier, you can find good episodes in even the bad ones. So, but if I was to pick one, if I was really to pick a season specifically to say where it kind of goes downhill, I'd say season 17, 18-ish. Anyway, second question. What is your favorite dynamic out of the Simpsons family? Like example, Homer Marge, Bart and Lisa, Lisa and Homer. I do love Bart and Homer because seeing them like get into trouble is kind of like watching, if you've seen the Munsters, it's like watching like a more swearing, more violent version of Herman and Grandpa Munster getting into shenanigans. It's kind of fun. Yes, I do love the Munsters that much. But I would say my personal favorite is Homer and Lisa. I love that dynamic of this smart little girl and this father who's just trying to love his daughter. Like, he will do anything for Lisa, because even like he got beat up around town trying to find her after he lost her. And it's also a very heartwarming episode ending. So I really enjoyed that. So Lisa and Homer are always the two I love seeing together. And your third question is, what is your favorite vacation episode where the Simpsons travel to a different country? The Japan episode. I really like that one, not just because there's a Godzilla and Gamera cameo at the end. There's some really good jokes in it, too. I would say the Rio episode is really fun, even though it just kind of ends on a ending. I like the one where they go to Brazil. I really like the episode. Well, that's really kind of... Well, oh yeah, and of course, you can't forget the Australia episode. That's also the GOAT of these. But I would say, like... I'd probably put the Australia one first, and then Japan second. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Gordon. Moving on now to Hunter Johnson, who asks, how would you do a three-way crossover between Simpsons, Steven Universe, and... How would you do 3 Simpson crossovers with Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, Ed, Ed, and Eddie? I really don't know how I could do that pull that right out of my ass. I'd have to think about it, so I'm not going to do that because there's no way I can do that in this episode. So sorry. I don't even know how I could conjure that in this moment. So, sorry. Second question. Would Bart and Rainbow Dash be friends, and would they... could you see them doing a lot of pranks on people? Yeah, I will say that he would get mocked relentlessly, even by Lisa, for hanging out with a pony. Personally. I think, personally, that's what I think would happen. And third question, what would you cross over with The Simpsons and Owl House? I would say, now that I can probably think of a story real fast, I think what I would do is have that the Simpsons find, Homer and Maggie specifically finds a portal finds one of the many Titan bleed areas that lead to the Boiling Isles, and the Simpsons go after her trying to save her, and it's just shenanigans ensue. I would love to see Homer encounter the guardsmen's, the Imperial Guard, not the Imperial Guard, the Emperor's Coven, and be like, there's no cops on this earth there's no cops in the multiverse that can hold me down, and they all just tackle him. Help! They're holding me down! So, thank you for those questions, Hunter. Moving on now to Bill McLaughlin, who asks, what is your favorite Simpsons couch gag? My favorite Simpsons couch... The Rick and Morty one is pretty fun. I do enjoy the Rick and Morty one. Another one I also enjoy is The anime one, which also has Homer as Ultraman. I love that one. I also enjoy the one where they're all skydiving and Homer just comes in like, yeah. Oh, and the one where the claw gag where it grabs Homer and just pulls him away. He's like, oh, my brain! I don't know why that makes me laugh every time. So second question, who is your least favorite Simpsons character? Lovejoy's wife, Maude. I want to punch her in the face every time I see that character. I just want, like, one episode to have, like, Maude, like, gossiping, and then Marge just punches her in the face. And it's just like, I've been waiting to do that for over 30 years! It feels so liberating! So there's your answer. And who is your favorite Simpsons side character? That's your third question. Alright, my favorite Simpsons side character would have to be Willie. Willie followed by Willie, Apu, and let's say Bo. So there you go. Thank you for those questions, Bill. Moving on now to Christopher Rosa, who asks, I have an idea for a deconstruction episode of The Simpsons, and I was hoping you'd give me your thoughts on it. It's a short version of Bart the Murderer, where Bart was framed, and it leads where Bart was framed by the Mafia, but was cleared. But I was thinking, what would be a more realistic reaction to Bart being traumatized? But there's the fact that Homer testified against him. I just thought Marge should have divorced him for that. Also, Marge would sue the court for their ridiculous case against their son. What do you think would happen in this story? I really don't know. That's an emotional ass kicking that I am not emotionally prepared for at the moment. So I really don't know how I would do that, honestly. Yeah. Sorry, I have no notes. If you had a chance to write a Simpsons episode that would be pure horror, where nothing is played for laughs, how would you write that episode? I think I would play it as, like, Homer has discovered that they live in a cartoon, and it's driving him nuts. It's not funny, it's more like... It's kind of like that movie that's god-awful with Will Ferrell, Take Your Pick. Zing. It's that one where he hears, like, a person narrating his life, and he discovers that, yeah, he's a cartoon, and now he's just kind of left in a world where he's just going mad, and it leaves him being written out of the show or something like that. So that's just how I see it. And your third question is, if you were writing a Simpsons horror crossover, what film or series would you cross it over with, and what would the story be about? I think what I would do is maybe do a Simpsons Friday the 13th crossover. And I think I would have it that, like, the Simpsons have traveled to... Actually, I'd have it that Mr. Burns has bought Crystal Lake and is turning and renovating it into a summer town, as well as like a condominium, like a beach, like a lakeside resort. And he doesn't want anyone to know about Jason, but it leads to Jason just brutally killing Simpsons characters left and right. That'd probably be a fun Treehouse of Horror, honestly. Just, you actually gotta call him Jason. Alright, but thank you for those questions, everyone. This was a lot of fun. Hope you all enjoyed this, and once again, I'd like to thank everyone for sending me questions for this Simpsons Q&A. And like I said, this is about the length of a Simpsons episode, basically. Who knew? But yeah, if you guys would like to send me questions, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, hit the second tier, that'll let you access to videos, all that good stuff. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time, the Multiverse.